My name is Kevin Schmiegel, and I'm the Executive Director of Hiring Our Heroes at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a 20-year Marine veteran, despite my bearded disposition. I served for 20 years from 1989 to 2009, and just made the transition myself a few years ago. For veterans who are on the Hangout with us this afternoon, and you're joining us for the first time, you're joining an industry panel with representatives from the energy sector, and in my opinion, two of the best energy companies in our country who work on the hiring of veterans and military families. Chesapeake Energy and Southern Company are with us today. But before we introduce our two panelists, I'd like to tell you a little bit about VetNet. VetNet is a technology-based system and effort to help veterans, transitioning service members, and their spouses find meaningful employment in really hundreds of companies across the country. It was created in collaboration with one of the best technology companies we have, Google, and three of what I consider the best nonprofits for military families in the country. Of course, I'm including myself in that group and Hiring Our Heroes at the U.S. Chamber, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University, and a smaller nonprofit based out of Atlanta called Hire Heroes USA. The way I like to describe VetNet to everyone is it's like a television channel for veterans and military families. And it's more than that. It's really a virtual career resource center. So those programs that we have in the military, that we have in the VA, that we have in the Department of Labor in our government to support the transition of military families, this is really a private sector, nonprofit sector approach to the challenges that transitioning military members have. We're going to use this as a site to host panels with industry experts. We're going to do question and answer sessions with CEOs, some of whom were veterans themselves who have successfully made it into the private sector. We're going to do workshops on resume writing and interview techniques via these Hangout video chat technologies. The best thing is it's free and open to everyone. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When we do a panel like this, as soon as we're done, it goes into a YouTube video, and it can remain in a resource library that military families, that transitioning service members and military spouses can go to whenever they have time. The material will fall into three categories. So no matter where you are in the transition process, no matter what your aspirations are, you have opportunities in three basic areas. The first one is an entrepreneur track, and that's run by the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse. They run an entrepreneurial boot camp. And basically, it's for people who are in the military or who have recently transitioned, who are veterans or military spouses who want to start a business or grow a business. That entrepreneur track is run by a professor at Syracuse named Mike Caney, who started the Institute for Veterans and Military Families there. The second channel is something called the basic training track. And this is where you can get everything that you're getting on the government side from maybe in the TAP process, but get it from a private sector perspective. Resume writing, interview techniques, how to land a job in the government, how to land a job in the private sector, how to network, how to get in contact with a mentor. All those things will be covered in the basic training track. How to develop an elevator pitch. So when you talk to an employer for the first time, you do a good job or you do a better job than the next person who walks in the door who may not have been in the military. And the final track is a career connections track, and that's run by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and Hiring Our Heroes. And what you're seeing today will be a lot of the same. We do industry panels every week because what we want to do is to let veterans know that there are unique opportunities in a lot of industries that are growing across America. And you can get advice from people who want to hire you. And I think it's important that you understand that this capability exists. So without further ado, I want to introduce our two panelists. To my right on your screen is Agita Riggins. She's the recruiting supervisor at Chesapeake Energy Corporation, and she has a background in recruiting. The focus of her career has been on staffing military personnel inside companies. She's been employed with Chesapeake Energy since March of 2011, and I think it's really important to note that Chesapeake itself hired close to 700 veterans in 2012, and if my numbers are wrong, Agita, let me know. But that shows that they're hiring dozens of folks every month into their company, and they value veterans. She is an active participant in veteran-focused causes, such as working with disabled veterans, clothing drives for homeless veterans, educational events, and so on. Agita is a military spouse herself. Her husband is a retired Army, and she also has a daughter who served in the military. So she has the passion that we all share for helping our brothers and sisters who have walked in our footsteps. Linda Sykes is the military recruiting strategist for Southern Company. She establishes military contacts and builds relationships with networking organizations to make Southern Company more effective in their military recruiting. She, like me, has over 20 years of active military experience in the United States Marine Corps, so that makes me very happy and proud to have another Marine with me today. 6 of her years in the Marine Corps were spent as a recruiter and recruiting instructor, so a lot of the Marines that are out there will know that what that means, and it's really helpful to her in her current role with Southern. She joined Southern in April of 2012, not this year, last year now. She leads military recruiting and outreach efforts across the company. And I think a lot of people know that Southern Company was recognized as a GI Jobs top 100 military-friendly employer for 2013. So, with all that said, my mouth's getting dry. I think I'm going to turn it over to our 2 panelists for questions, because that's what it's all about today. And I always get in trouble for talking too much. We are talking today about career opportunities in the energy sector. And for me, just being kind of involved with a lot of energy companies who have reached out to us to get access to veterans, I think the most important thing we can do for the veterans that are listening today is to say there are huge opportunities that are out there right now across the energy sector, and particularly in companies like Chesapeake and Southern. We are asking the veterans on the line right now, right from the beginning, to start asking the questions, because we want this to be about them. We want to field their questions, and we want to get them involved with the panel to get your advice on things that are burning inside their minds that they want to get answered. So to start off, I think it's a good chance for you kind of to introduce yourselves even more, if I didn't cover some of the stuff I should have, to talk about your companies. I think both companies do 2 very different things. You can talk about the platforms, the energy platforms that you're involved with and where you're looking to hire. Vets that are joining from the other 5 or 6 panels that we've done are most interested in how to pursue a career in your field, and how do they prepare for that, and how they can get a leg up. So cover some of the unique programs that you have at both Chesapeake and Southern, and talk about a little bit about what your companies are doing. But this is your time to talk. Take as much time as you need. And in the meantime, the Hiring Our Heroes staff here will be looking for questions from our veterans out there. So I'm going to start with Agita at Chesapeake, and then Linda, just chime in at the end when Agita's done, please.
Well, a little bit about Chesapeake Energy. We are a natural gas company. One of the things that we pride ourselves in doing is to provide clean and natural energy to the United States. We are a United States company. We are here in America. We are not overseas. What we do here at Chesapeake Energy in regards to hiring veterans is we've put together a team who's responsible for assisting them with the hiring process. A little bit of the feedback that we've received with working within the veteran community or military community is that a lot of times you apply for positions but you don't know what's going on, or you don't know how to form your resume, you don't know where to start. One of the things that our military relations team is responsible for is assisting with those questions. So there's an ability for you to email or call us, and we can talk to you about what it is that you want to do, where you want to go in your career, and then assist you with finding a position here at Chesapeake Energy. We take pride in the fact that we were able to hire almost 700 in 2012, but most importantly, we take pride in the fact of being able to hire our nation's heroes to work at this company, to use the skill sets that they've learned within the military here at Chesapeake Energy. Their leadership, not only to lead, but to lead by example, their ability to work with new technologies, to work safely, not only for themselves, but to look out for those others. Those are the things that we look for within candidates to come and work for Chesapeake Energy. Those are the things that military provides for us. I think that's pretty much in a nutshell what we do here. And as in terms of what we're going to do in the future, we're going to do the same thing and continue to help veterans to find gainful employment, not only with Chesapeake, but if necessary, anywhere else their heart desires.
That's great, Agita. Just before I turn it over to Linda, we had a question. I think it's great to field questions right off the bat, but it's one thing that you could cover before I turned it over to Linda. Um, a question came in from Tim, I think it's Bakey, who wants to know geographically where the greatest opportunities exist. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but do you want to talk where your biggest pockets of employment are for Chesapeake if you had to pick 2 or 3 regions in the country where you think the greatest opportunities exist?
I think right now for Chesapeake Energy, it would be South Texas and the Pearsall area. And then also in Ohio and the Canton area, we are actively hiring for those 2 areas en masse right now.
Perfect. And with that, Linda, if you could cover that in your towards the end of your overview, that would be great too. Turn it over to you, Linda.
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with veterans. It's always an honor. And of course, I take pleasure in doing my job each and every day because of the opportunity to actually connect veterans with employers such as Southern Company and other energy companies. About Southern Company is the major utility provider for the Southeast. And those states in the Southeast that we actually cover is Alabama, Georgia, Panhandle, Florida, Mississippi, as well as the Gulf area. So those are the areas that we fully focus on and provide our services, and those are the areas that we would have opportunities for veterans. Southern Company has continued to embrace veterans. We understand the value of veterans. We've hired veterans for many, many years, and we have a large population of employees that are veterans. As an employer of choice, we continue to provide outreach to veterans, and a part of our recruitment and outreach consists of, we take an approach of a national, regional, and a local approach to recruiting for veterans. And the reason that we take a national, local, and regional approach is because we are a regional-based company by being in the Southeast. So we actually advertise as part of our national outreach to veterans that are in military installations outside of our operating footprint. So some of the ways we advertise as part of our branding and career awareness is actually through some of the major magazines that actually connect with veterans and veterans read, such as GI Jobs, Civilian Jobs, and Corporate Grade, just to name a few. But in addition, as part of our regional outreach, that's why we actually also continue with the branding piece, but we also have career awareness for veterans. And with the career awareness, we actually talk about Troops to Energy program, which Southern Company is one of 5 companies that are actually piloting the program for Troops to Energy. And Troops to Energy actually provides an avenue for veterans to actually log on to Troops to Energy website, enter information in regards to their MOS or other information in regards to their military experience that they've gained. But then also it helps them to kind of create a roadmap as far as what type of opportunities within the energy industry that they could be potentially a match for. And I think that's a great avenue for veterans to kind of look and see what type of opportunities that they may be interested in, that may be out there in the energy industry. And we embrace Troops to Energy as our recruiting approach overall. So that's one of the avenues that we take. We also partner with Hired to Heroes, Heroes to Hired, which is a major organization that we use to actually tap into veterans. We attend military job fairs that Hired and Our Heroes put on, which have been very successful for us here in the Southeast as well. Also, as part of our local recruiting, we have a big focus on the military installations within our footprint as far as our partnership goes. And this is where our recruiting teams and managers within the area, we're actually partnering with the transition managers aboard those military installations, such as the Fort Gordon, Fort Benning, Albany Marine Corps Base, as well as Fort Stewart and other military installations, and that's in Georgia alone. But we really focus on military recruitment nationally to ensure that those veterans out there know that Southern Company really is interested in them considering us for their next career. And I also just wanted to make sure that our veterans know that Southern Company has operating companies, and they're probably more familiar with the operating companies, such as Georgia Power, Alabama Power, Mississippi Power, Gulf Power, and Southern Nuclear. I know, being from Alabama myself, I probably wouldn't have known the name Southern Company initially, but if someone had mentioned Southern Company and Georgia Power or Alabama Power, I would have known right away. And these are companies in the Southeast that we as veterans know that are very good career-based companies. And to be able to be considered for opportunities with a company such as Southern Company is a great opportunity. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to kind of share with veterans about Southern Company and our outreach to veterans, and what type of opportunities we have across our company. I can't hear him. I can't hear him. I can't hear him. Can you email James and tell him I can't hear him? She can't either.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh.
That was a while there. Were my lips moving?
They were.
Okay, good. So the next question we got from a veteran out there points to a very specific thing. And before we cover that, I wanted to first say that Linda's point about all 50, that there are states with opportunities. You can't think of Southern as just this one big company, but if you looked at all 50 states, there are opportunities in the energy sector in all 50 states. There are some areas of the country where there's huge growth opportunities in the energy sector. So to answer the question in sum, you can look to your home states when you're going out of the military or where you are right now for programs there, or you can look to areas like the Gulf Coast or Texas, Western Pennsylvania, North Dakota, Wyoming. Those are places that are growing every day. So I think that the main answer is there are opportunities across the country. There was a question from another veteran that came in that I think we can kind of go over very quickly, but I want to put it in the framework of all veterans. So we had a question from Brad Yost. He's currently in graduate school for applied physics, so probably a skill set that a lot of people would be interested in. He graduates in 1 year, and he's wondering what classes he should try to focus on to get a position within the energy sector. So I'd like, if any of you would know specifically for Brad in that area where he might be a good fit for one of your companies, it would be great for you to cover that. But also, and I'm going to start with the Gita here, if you could have kind of give advice to a younger veteran who is looking for work right now, and try to steer them towards the energy sector, what advice would you give them as they're making their transition, or if they've recently transitioned, what can they do?
Okay, the first thing I would say is the energy sector is much like the military. People who don't know the military think it's all infantry, when in actuality there are several departments that go to assist them to achieve their goals. The energy sector is the same way. We have several different departments that assist us in drilling and finding natural gas. With that being said, because the industry is so vast, I would suggest that you first do some research to find out where you would like to work. So for example, we have several affiliate companies underneath Chesapeake's umbrella. We have Chesapeake Energy, which holds our drilling company, Nomac, our trucking companies, Thunder and Hodges. We also have Performance Technology, which is our hydraulic stimulation, and then Great Plains Oilfield Rental, and several more. You need to figure out where it is within the energy sector you'd like to work. Do some research on that, narrow it down to a type of a position that you'd be interested in, and once you know that, go through and look at some job descriptions to find out what those main skill sets are required to do that role. So for example, I'm a recruiter. I need to be able to conduct an interview. I need to be able to process the hiring process from beginning to end. So some of the skills that I would need is communication skills, customer service skills, understanding basic laws. Everyone has basics as to what position that they have open. Find out what those are. Figure out what skills you have and what skills you don't have. Find a way to get them. When I didn't have skills to work a career fair, I went and volunteered to work a career fair. If you're not in the position to volunteer, there are several classes where you can go to learn about the oil and gas industries throughout the United States. So that's what I would suggest in terms of getting your skill set. There are a lot of opportunities within Chesapeake Energy that don't require previous experience. One of the questions that I get and one of the comments that I get when I'm at career fairs and community organization events is I did this particular thing in the military and I know you guys can't help me and you can't find a job for me because I don't have those skill sets you need. Well, don't count yourself too short. With that being said, we have hired people who were enlisted, non-commissioned officers, and commissioned officers throughout Chesapeake Energy. So basically, you need to figure out what you need to do, figure out what skills you have, get those skills that you don't have, and if you want an entry-level position, just contact Chesapeake Energy and we will place you into those roles or help you to be placed into those roles.
That was great. Thanks, Agita. What I want to kind of do for Linda, because Linda served for 20 years and she has her own transition, and having worked on the recruiting side, Linda, you can probably relate some of your own experience and try to give advice on stuff that you wish you had done differently as you were leaving the Marine Corps. And then maybe if there are any opportunities out there for a physicist who's in his last year at school at Southern, which I'm hoping there might be something. I feel nothing better than to give Brad some direction where he might land a job with a company like Southern right as he's graduating. But if you first could cover your own challenges and then talk a little bit to Brad's question, that'd be great.
Right. I think the largest challenge for me when I was transitioning is I didn't know what to expect when I got out. I went through the typical transition classes like we all veterans go through, and we didn't have as much, I guess there weren't as many avenues as far as resources. And when I say resources, when I think of like Troops to Energy jobs, and when I look at Brad's question, perfect question to be answered with the Troops to Energy jobs response, because if he were logged on to Troops to Energy website and enter that type of information, it'll help him to kind of see, what type of opportunities and classes there may be that he could take to prepare for that transition. And also within our nuclear power plants, that's a huge market down here for us. We are building one of the first nuclear power plants to be built in over 40 years. So that is certainly a growing industry with Southern Company as far as nuclear. So Brad, you may want to take a look at Troops to Energy jobs and also, look at the nuclear industry. It is a great career to get into, and we do consider vets for those opportunities.
That's great. We actually had a follow-on question from another veteran named Tim Einloth. He is actually in the Navy right now, and he's a nuclear electrician with over 3 years of submarine duty and with an EAS in March. So he wanted to know about when he applies for nuclear operator jobs, does he recommend going through websites online? Should he look to Troops to Energy site, which we can call up while you're answering the question, Linda, or should he go directly to Southern site or both?
He can actually do both, because he is what we would consider, if he's retained any certifications in the nuclear program, then he will be what we consider a ready now candidate, which means that he's gained the experience that will be needed to actually transition into our roles. And actually on the nuclear side, when they kind of transition from the Navy with that nuclear experience, we actually send them through about 18 months of additional training. But the initial training and experience he's bringing to the table certainly makes him a ready now candidate. So he can visit our site directly, or he can go to Troops to Energy and contact us that way as well.
That's great. I think what I'd like to do, just for the veterans that are out there, we'll share the URLs, the web addresses for both Chesapeake and for Southern, so everyone has those. We'll share them right after the Hangout's over with. And we'll also share the site for Troops to Energy and some other ones that we want you to look at, just so you're thinking about the right things if you're interested in a career in energy. And that'll be the easiest way to get the information out to everyone who's listening. I think we'll look for some more questions for the veterans. But the last question I think we should talk about is this notion that the energy sector, your industry, your industries as a whole are growing. I think if we look at 4 or 5 major industries in the country to include healthcare, information technology, transportation and infrastructure, that energy is right up there with them, and it's everywhere. It's not just electric or nuclear or gas and oil. It's the green energies, and there are huge opportunities in some of the more traditional energy platforms. There's an aging workforce. We have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring. We have a huge need out there. And what we would like to see is over the next 5 or 10 years, that gap get filled with veterans to every extent possible. So if you could kind of talk about the future of your industry, and if you have specific, figures that support what I just said, that would make me look smart. Since I muted my microphone before, I could use all the help I can get. But if you could cover that, and we'll start with Agita for Chesapeake, talk a little bit about what you see as like steady state demand, but also about what the future of the industry holds and where you think it might go over the next 5 or 10 years. Agita, can you hear me?
I'm muted. I'm sorry. So feel
okay.
better, Kevin. Feel much better, Kevin. Well, what I'll say is our CEO, Aubrey McLennan, is dedicated to continuing to provide affordable and environmentally friendly natural gas to the world, definitely to America. And our hope is to strengthen America economically, but also end our dependence on foreign energy. With that being said, right now there's over 200 years of clean natural gas within the United States. Chesapeake Energy has been the leader in finding and also distributing that natural gas. With that being said, we're going to continue to do what we do well. So as the United States increases its use of natural gas, I can fully see that Chesapeake will be a major player in employment within the United States.
Linda, do you want to just chime in on that? And then I'm going to wrap up.
Okay. I would just like to share with veterans that, Southern Company and the energy industry as a whole, about 35% of our population, our employee population, is expected to retire within the next 5 to 10 years. And that's a huge gap when you think about the number of employees. We have over 26,000 employees at Southern Company. So that's a wealth of opportunity for veterans. And with veterans coming out now with the type of benefits they have with the GI Bill and things of that nature, to be able to help them get the additional training, should they need additional training to actually land an opportunity or their next career in the energy industry, this is a great time for them to invest in that. Also, and Troops to Energy is an avenue to, find out if they need additional training or not. But it's a great opportunity for veterans to go ahead and get their research in and start their career search, and know that the energy industry is an industry of choice for that reason, is that the opportunities are there now, and they're only going to become that much more open in the years to come. So whether you are already a veteran or you're transitioning or planning to transition, look to the energy industry.
That was absolutely terrific lead into what I want to talk about as a wrap up. We are wrapping up now. This will be the last thing we talk about. So if you are a veteran out there, if you have questions, please send it to us. If you don't get them or you feel a little shy typing them in there, feel free to kind of chime in as we go along on VetNet. You can certainly connect with us on VetNet and send us your questions, and we can certainly send them to the panelists. I think this number, this 35%, is huge, and it points exactly to why we wanted to do a panel with the energy sector. The Chamber itself started a program a couple of months ago called Fast Track, and the idea is to highlight the energy industry, to highlight industries that are growing in America, but also take into account what really drives a lot of our military transitioning service members and spouses' decision-making process when they're leaving the military, and that is geography. When I was the head of enlisted assignments for the Marine Corps, I spoke to thousands of Marines every year. I went around the country, around the world with 60 other HR managers and talked to them about their decision to stay or leave the Marine Corps. 75% of all Marines leave after their first 4 years. And when I talked to them and said, what are you going to do next? They would say, sir, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go home and I'll figure it out when I get there. So we thought it would be best to look across the industries that are growing in America and to map those job opportunities. And if geography is driving a veteran's decision-making process, let's deal with geography. So if you go to any of these 100, we went to the 100 cities in America that are forecasted to grow the quickest over the next 5 to 10 years. And we've had companies post their jobs online. So veterans will get real data. So when they click on a city, it doesn't matter what city, one of these 100 cities, they will see the 5 or 6 industries that are driving growth. Because we don't think you should fit a square peg in a square hole. Just because someone drove in the military as a military transport operator doesn't mean they want to do that and get their CDL and drive after they leave the military. We should be pushing them, in some cases, to the energy sector or the healthcare sector. This map that we've produced will now start to show them what they need to do with their GI Bill so that they get a credential, they get a certification, and we'll be able to point them to where the jobs are and who's hiring. So I want veterans not just to use the Troops to Energy program. We want to take Troops to Energy and populate the map. We also want to take the manufacturing effort called Get Skills to Work and populate high-end manufacturing jobs. We want to take the 200,000 jobs in America that aren't being filled right now for drivers and populate the entire map for that. Hundreds of thousands of jobs in the healthcare sector forecasted over the next 5 to 10 years. The same thing with IT. So we are going to make sure that these things exist online for veterans because we don't think that they're getting it right now across all the programs that exist in the government or the nonprofit sector. And we feel that these things are important to point them in the right direction, to get them on the right track in terms of their employment search. So with that, I'd like to end the panel. I'd like to thank Agita from Chesapeake and Linda from Southern for joining us. I think you guys did a fantastic job. It was a pleasure having you. We would be interested in having your individual companies do a whole panel on yourself. You can include a couple recruiters, your CEOs, whoever you would like, just to highlight what you're doing as individual companies because you both do great things every day for the military community. I'd like to close by thanking the veterans that tuned in. I'd like to apologize for going on mute and staying on mute. But I'd like to encourage you to use the VetNet headquarters site as much as possible to search the site, to search Fast Track, to search the things that exist out there that'll help you with your transition, and to please get the word out to your friends to use this because we think it's going to be a very valuable tool to lots of folks that need it. So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time.